goodness, the ambience is louder than me. We can't have that now, can we? Maybe if I put it around about there. As long as my voice is literally louder than it, right? What a beautiful ambience. I've just spawned in here on a completely random world. I was going to show you a world that I've been having a walk around in, but I've been having a little bit of trouble with world generation. It was generating empty worlds. Very strange. We're currently in creative, and I just thought that I would have a little bit of a wander around in this beautiful game with its beautiful music and talk about whatever comes to mind. Oh, goodness. You'll note on my YouTube channel I did mention that I was taking a break, and that was good. I was posting a little too frequently, but besides that, I've been hemming and hawing about what to do with the Let's Play series, because I feel this strange sense to this urgency to do something dramatic, to stand out. What a fabulous start, right on top of clay and right next to some cattails. I feel as though if I'm sharing an experience with people, that it ought to feel like an experience. We have all the flora zones mods active, by the way, so you'll see some rather interesting plants here. I had Flora Sphere on, which adjusts the world generation, but I was having some problems with that, and it was causing issues with other mods as well. So that's been disabled for the moment. What are these curious things? House leek. Makes you think they're edible, no? And then there's limestone. Yeah, that's too soft to work with. We're not worried about that now. I'm just taking a wander. Let me see about. Okay, I got confused there. Now that little divot there will mark spawn. Yes. Turnips! What a blessed start. I just sort of logged into exploration and let it do its own thing. I didn't mess with anything. So all of the settings are default for the exploration version. And I don't know the seed yet. I might deign to share it if I don't play on it. Red currant bushes. Very fabulous. It's a strange thing though, cranberries. I suppose it can be enough to simply play the game and enjoy it, right? But it does beg some basic level of editing, and then you have to it's an explorative process of seeing, oh, is this interesting? Do I care to edit all of this out? Remove some of the tedium, or do I just sort of leave it as a very nonchalant radio broadcast sort of experience? I have never seen an area so bountiful in resources in my life. What a beautiful seed. I was playing on Linux a few days ago, as I've been very gently making that transition. Furs. New Zealand flags. And I came across a similar situation where it generated snowflowers and horseradish. You can't eat the flowers though. I started on a peat bank that must have been some 80 blocks long on the coast of a river. A river? A pond. A very large lake. size is relative. Anyway, and there's very significant amounts of clay in the nearby area as well. Kind of like rolling hillsides and a plateau on the other side. Very beautiful. Every moment I spend in this game feels like I'm taking a jaunt into some beautiful natural environment and just sort of look at how much attention is being paid to the detail of this game. You have the sound of the water, you have the very deliberate rustling of the plants and such. Even the, to a lesser extent, some of the modded ones, but it takes a keen eye to sort of weigh into this. It is going. It's got a very strong stem, perhaps. The particles of the wind, the particular way that the leaves and the grass move. Absolutely gorgeous. Is there some larch over there? Cranberries. What's this? Blackbirds. And is this? This is gorse. I see. That's pine. Yeah. Birch. So it's larch up there and then oak? Yes. Getting good at identifying these. Death cap. You definitely don't want those in your tea. And some common boulette. I have step up, as you can see, although it took me a minute to get used to, as I had been recently playing Lucid Blocks. You may have seen. I intend to perhaps post some more of that later. Let's have a look down here, shall we? Oh, there's a whole cave system. One moment. Blue ghost. Oh, goodness. What a fabulous color. It's kind of like those deep blue, maybe perhaps sad lamps that you put on during the night. Ooh. It's quite extensive, isn't it? There's always a sense... What was that? Did anyone else hear that? Just heard a little ping. Sounded like a bicycle, didn't it? Oh dear. I must remember to right click, not left click, when I come back into the game. There's ambience playing in the background. Yes, I'm just sort of I'm walking around making observations, both here and elsewhere. This leads out. Oh, this is probably where I came from, yes. Anything down here? I think we've hit our limit for curiosities in this area, perhaps. Unfortunate. Oh, does it go further over here? It does, and there's even a little thing here. A completely overrun area. You know, cobwebs are a common thing used to denote that a space hasn't been touched in a while. And it can get a little bit ridiculous in like movie sets and whatnot, to that extent. But the thing is that spiders tend to make cobwebs in areas that they're likely to catch prey, so there has to be at least a little bit of a draft going. Otherwise, you know, they have no incentive to make them. So I come in here. Perhaps there's rot somewhere, or a skeleton that we've not to find. If I can... There we go. There's nothing in here. But in another instance, maybe there was food there, perhaps. Something in there. It's very special, doesn't it? So I walked over here, and then I came to that spot. This wouldn't... Oh, you would have no idea that that's there, would you? Is that the moon? I think it is. Curiouser and curiouser. I like to get an eye into the inner workings of the game sometime. And we're back. Let's see, yes, the wind. I was walking with the wind for a while. I am looking forward to seeing a step-up mod for Lucid Blocks. Doing this does get tiring after a while. Oh, we've already been down there. Yes, my love, what ails you so? Are you just saying hello? I think so. Where are they? No idea. I'm going off in a random direction again. No, it doesn't terribly matter, does it? We can keep our bearings from the wind. So yes, I'm a bit curious. These sort of games. I know that I personally tend to use Let's Plays as background noise a lot of the time. So I'm less interested in anything specifically intellectually engaging in so much as just really hearing the buzz of conversation. It's nice. Makes the... when everyone's out of the house, it makes it feel a little bit less empty and such. Or just white noise to fall asleep to, sort of thing. But there is a draw to doing something more. I also see other videos where people are... There seems to be such an attraction in this game to people making houses and stories about them and art projects and stuff, and that is the natural outlier with other games of this type, particularly the leading predecessor, which I shall only refer to as Other Block Game. However, it seems especially magnetized in this instance. Magnetic? There's a magnetic attraction towards it in this game. People are doing all of these stunningly gorgeous projects and sharing them and concocting stories, and I find myself looking at those and thinking, ooh, I should like to do some of that. What is a tiger lily? Fascinating. Problem is, I'll get a little bit personal here. I say, I have. Look at that. Is that a birch tree? It's a poplar. Oh my goodness, it's massive. Look at that! A little baby. Oh my goodness. Oh, please tell me they didn't. Don't fall, little one, don't fall. They're just hiding in the brush. Good. So the baby's there running to the mother, but the mother doesn't really know what they're doing. I think the AI pathing has got confused. I have a number of, just, snap back into the topic at hand. I have a number of ailments of a kind that variously limit the amount of energy that I have in order to contribute to projects. And although I am addressing at least two of those, the fact that I am rather uncomfortable with facing and sort of, I suppose, just facing it in general is that I am in a permanently lowered state of energy, and there are limitations to what I can do to sort of circumnavigate that. I like when the copper oxidizes. So with that in mind, sometimes I will start a project and the ennui, or sort of my body telling me that it will cost a little bit more than a smidge of effort to... How do you put it? But if anyone's familiar with spoons theory, there's a theory with, just in general, where you have so many spoons a day. It's a fox chasing chickens. So many spoons a day that you have that you can sort of dole out onto separate tasks. And then other people have jumped on this and expanded the theory where you can take out forks, and forks will... You can put extra effort in on one day, but it will reduce the number of spoons that you have going forward until that debt is paid. And thus representing burnout of a kind. People extend the metaphor further with knives, and it starts to sound a little bit graphic, but it's not. I suppose it is and it isn't. Knives represent burnout of a longer kind, so you might earn back the spoon that a fork took away in a week, but a knife might take several months or years. And thus is the reality that people with chronic fatigue and the like have to deal with and invent language in order to describe. And it can be a very strange and alien concept for people that are not familiar with those experiences to sort of wrap their head around, because, well, of course you feel tired after doing a task and such, but some people can feel absolutely exhausted from small things, from just doing the dishes. And it's a complex number of factors, because as we live in these very complicated bodies with various pathways for how everything works, it can seem baffling to run into someone whose experience is so alien that surely it must be that it could... I think it's very uncomfortable for some to face that idea, and so it would be much more comfortable to pin it down to a failure of character rather than a bodily limitation. I don't feel like going through the night. So just turn it back to day, or perhaps, what is it? Time set. I think it was evening. Time set. No, it was starting to get day. Time set month May, and then set 1830. I think that's about where we would be. I have picked up juniper berries through some mechanism unknown to me. Marsh imp. I think I like that one more. So I like a soft red glow. Yeah, it can. I think the concept is especially uncomfortable to sort of just deal with the reality of that our bodies can function in ways that just are so limited that it represents, I think, a possibility that trying to pace myself. So yeah, talking about the concept and living the reality at the same time. Um, Disabilities in general, the fact that a random accident might leave you crippled for life is not a pleasant thing to think about. And so it can be very tempting to sort of rush into the idea of, oh, well, you shouldn't have put your hand there, you should have been more careful, you should have this, that, and the next thing. But things just happen. You're rolling the dice every day that you're alive, and it's a very blessed thing, I think, to be able to sort of live in the first place. Not the rest of the wonder of the world and, you know, a bunch of other beautiful isn't life mysterious sort of sentiments. But yes. I'm not heading in any particular direction. You know, much like the walk itself, I'm just sort of drifting through the idea and the space. But so in my experience, I have a certain amount of energy that I can put towards projects, and that has improved as of late. I'm also in a spot in my life where I think, for the most part, I am, relatively speaking, in the prime of my life. And I have a good while yet. Oh, goodness. I didn't mean to do that. Interesting. So you can place it on the side and it puts it down, but not. Anyway. What is that? Chickens following each other. They've got a sense of pack instincts. Hen seems attracted. Ah, yes. Okay. She was split between the two, and now they've regrouped. So they pathfind to the nearest companion, which in this case is a rooster. And I believe they're setting down for the night. Oh, it's a chick! Beautiful. They, at this size, they kind of look like capercaillies, don't they? A wee what, a wee what, a wee what, a wee what, a wee what. Beautiful things. I think they have a nickname by way of a weibo for the sound that they make. And so, well, with my Let's Play series, I've been doing these several hour long play sessions. Let's pay a visit here. I think so. Name's Anas. I roam around these parts finding and trading what I can. This is a treasure hunter. Squire. Black Forest Dawn. How very beautiful things. You would like a bismuth bronze falx, wouldn't we all? And some flax bread. Eclectic tastes. I suppose it keeps well in the winter. This'll be the last time. Yes, several hour long play sessions, and then I would cut them out over time, and then release those in a batch over the next week or so. And it it seems to be working quite well. You know, as long as you're posting every day, you're getting regular engagement. The algorithm gets more and more likely to. Right, that is quite distressingly loud, isn't it? And I've just realized what it is. So let's turn the effects down, perhaps. I have leveled up in some capacity. Is it in walking, perhaps? Traits. Fleet-footed. I turned on Seraph leveling up. Or perhaps... No, it's not the time. Editing, I do apologize. This is probably frustrating, but I guess in itself, it also demonstrates sort of what I'm working with here. Easily distracted, which is why one of the reasons I enjoy this game so much. Even when there's no wind, it's just sort of gently swaying, isn't it? Such a love of the craft for this thing. Alder leaves are a modded item, but I think they use the same physics. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 planes, and then a couple more for the sides. So as I can identify, there are 4. These are 2 blocks stacked within each other. So maybe not. You've got 4 cards that go across, which are represented by these. You see 8, but that's 4 squares essentially, and those go all the way down. And then you see a block that represents the leaf block itself, which you can tangibly interact with. And then when if the wind is particularly strong, it will appear to be in another block, but it's actually still here. That's the first time I've looked this closely at the leaf blocks. I've sort of vaguely paid attention, but not to this extent yet. Yeah, so the point is here. The blocks are rotated 90 degrees, and then they have these additional 4 card layers on top that lead to this very beautiful, elegant representation of a sort of... I'm not sure transparent is the right word. Porous is another one, you know, in the area of it. How do you represent leaves and branches and such? Very eclectic taste. Even have the same thing here. I could sit and read all these cards, but I'm not feeling inclined to at the moment. And this one's just a bunch of 8, which is also Totara. I think this is another kind of tree with very eccentric looking... Do we have leafy? Yeah, branchy leaves. I have had in my mind the idea that I would like to sit in a creation of mine, a house of some description or a lodge, and just sort of wax philosophical for a moment, talk about various life experiences. That is something I would find interesting. What's up, Moggy? Are you awake? You having late night thoughts like myself? I say that, it's only 20 past 6. I'm not sure if I heard a wolf howl from over there, but I did hear the music start to play. Look at the coat. In reality, these are very skinny creatures, but the very thick fur coat keeps them well warmed in the winter nights. That gorgeous tail and the little socks. Now, I'm aware of a thing. Certain cats, and I'm sure as well dogs, certain cats have a pigment in their hair that deactivates with heat. So you'll see them, their paws are dark because the circulation in their paws is a little bit less, and it's cold enough for the pigment to take effect. But the rest of the body doesn't take, so they end up like sheet white with these discolorations. Oh, there's two of them now. Nope, that's a boar, which the wolf is very sensibly walking away from. You don't want to mess with boars in real life. They're very defensible. Random jackrabbit. Yes. So if I say, let's get a little table here. A scribe table. It looks a little bit more like a picnic bench, doesn't it? So that's a table. And I'd like a chair. A chair with a backrest. Indeed. So let's find an appropriate alcove. I think on top of here might be a very... Oh, look at that. It's perfect. We even have a little bit of leaves. Shall we get a wrench in here so I can... I don't seem to be able to interact with them, however. But if I simply press the G key... Look at that. Oh, I actually am sitting on it. Leaning my arm on it. Beautiful. You can see the trader in the distance, as well as a silhouette of some distant mountains. Hello to you too, friend. What a strange thing. Yes. So, here we are, on our oddly shaped chair, sitting on a table on top of a mountain. And I've had thoughts of doing something like this in a house, and everything and nothing, as they say, under a starlit night. Well, as the stars very gently drift into the distance. Wolf howling, can you hear it? Maybe if I turn the in-game volume up a smidge. So if that's the loudest it gets, then I can turn on 2 decibels. Yeah, I'm just sort of trying to test. I would like it to not be too louder than my voice, but I think just the same, barely less is appropriate. And look at that, the wind started up again. The head actually tilts in accordance with the camera, etc. I am being quiet. but might I advise against skipping? It's an intended part of the experience. Resting in the distance. But perhaps further north away. Isn't it? Such a wonderful thing. That a video game can give you such an immersive experience as this. The leaves are rustling, you can hear it. The wind is playing with the treetops. This seems to be a random source of light down there. I wonder if I've placed it. Quite likely. Now, how many games in your life have you played that make you want to just sit and watch the sunrise in an alien world? I've turned the volume down by 7 decibels. The wind's still roaring, but I think I've found a nice middle ground where it's just barely quieter than myself. It's a difficult thing to consider. What do you cut out? What do you leave in? What do you talk about? What do you do? What is the experience that you wish to put forward? So there is a light source down here, but I can't fathom what it is. Oh, it is one of them. I don't remember placing that. I must have done it while I was up there. Because I can do that. Or, oh look. I'm not limited by such mortal concepts as distance. Look at that, God rays coming off of it. That's an artifact that you would see by closing your eyelids. Because the light would reflect through, it would take a hop, skip and a jump around your eyelashes. That or astigmatism. Luckily not one of the things that I have to deal with. Though I've heard many an individual I think it's as common as about at least a quarter of the human race. Maybe some 40%, 30%. The number will fluctuate, I imagine. Yes. I've been taking walks like this lately. I call it my walking simulator world. I have about 7 hours in it, and whether I'm chatting with friends or just sort of wanting a quiet moment, I will go into the world and just wander around exactly like this. I have rivers on, so sometimes I'll follow a river to its apex, see where all the tributaries end up. Beautiful thing. Forget-me-nots. Was anyone thinking of someone just now? Perhaps it's a sign. Lily of the valley, another gorgeous flower. The game strikes a balance somewhere between the ill-defined nature of old PlayStation games, where it doesn't at first feel like there's much of anything there. You go and play Ocarina of Time. Just turn this down a smidge more than half that. And there's a lot of open expanses that just don't have anything in them except grass. And perhaps you could say the same thing about this, but then you actually walk. And it's so dynamic. It feels like things are happening. The world is alive, and you just happen to be within it. You walk into other inhabitants of this realm, living their lives. Of course, if you peer behind the veil, you realize these things spawn in place at random and might, at another point, despawn, but within the limitations and the conceit of a fabricated experience, these are one of the ways that we get around simulating the feel of a thing rather than being completely realistic about it. Another way to say it, it's not technically possible to hunt anything to extinction in Vintage Story, but these random spawns and disappearances represent other animals living small stories of their own on the landscape alongside you. Oh, goodness me. Are you alright then there? And any other contacts, I'd be telling them to fuck off. Okay, let me move that. I keep hitting the right click button. There we go. Oh, why not? Let's find a way around. Obstacles are only meaningful so long as we choose to make them. The spice of life. It takes quite a bit of work and a few precise mods, but I have done such a thing as this before with Skyrim, of all things. That game, I think, represents a promise to so many that have played the game, whether they're with us still or not, and even those that are no longer with us have these stories coming out of a game that beautiful with tributes. There's a story I remember seeing a about a man whose brother had unfortunately passed away after falling into a river. Various means and ways, however it happened, it turned out how it did. And the brother was quite a fan of playing Skyrim, so the, shall we say, protagonist of our story here logged on every once in a while in the middle of a random clearing that was the last place that their brother had saved before, they were no longer around to sort of continue the save file. And they would just look around the space and I suppose think of them and then go on about the day. And it got to be such... Look at that. I've turned the God rays on. It was such a thing that they happened to post about it, and it happened to gain traction. And someone of interest decided, I would like to do something about this, or for this, or sort of do something in this space. And they made a shrine as a mod that you could then download. And all of these people coming to what is essentially the grave of someone that they've never met to pay their respects. And I'm getting strangely emotional just talking about it, because isn't that a beautiful thing? That a community comes together over a shared desire to express and comfort over a shared experience, which essentially is grief. Something that we all must deal with in varying degrees at some point or another in our lives, losing someone in our life that may be of significance to us. Or even as I was like, oh look, I think that just spawned in, I saw it drop from the sky. Isn't life beautiful? A change in circumstance, a place that you can no longer go back to, sort of moving home. Oh, please be careful, little Bambi. Various... I'm trying variously to describe any general sense of loss and the grief thereafter. So, someone tells a story about a loss that they've experienced, and a ritual is what that is, that they do to sort of give their feelings a space in which to manifest and be considered and allowed to be. And that resonated with such intensity that a whole community came together about it and made real tangible things. And to this day, I imagine people may still download the mod, and they may not necessarily know anything about the individual that it's intended for, but they may, in that space, be able to project their own feelings of loss and grief, and otherwise just sort of melancholy. Oh dear. Let's put these away. There's something sacred about the space that this game gives to just be. It has all of these meaningful rituals that we put upon ourselves. Upkeep, interruption, a meaningful imposition of our time so that we don't simply run about doing the same thing over and over until we tire ourselves out. You must take care of yourself. It's an unspoken thing. I would surely feel exhausted after, you know, harvesting this entire mountain for all of its resources. I say mountain, you know what I mean though. And you know, I would like to think if I did this, I would need a snack afterwards. Now, a slightly related topic. So far, oh, the rain's quite heavy, isn't it? Is that right? It's fine. I get to use some plants, but they grow slightly blue in certain stages. Flowers. Is that? It's flint. Oh, good. Just the rock type though. There is a mod, I think, for you know, such things as needing to go to the bathroom on occasion, but not part of the core experience, because although there is a, maybe I can let the game speak for a little bit just until we're out of the rain. I think this is a realistic generation. Oh, these sheer holes. Fireweed, yeah, firefox gloves. I think they're kind of lilac, aren't they? Tiny little trees. Is it featuring now just the smidge? I think so, yeah. We've walked out of the rainstorm. As I was saying, there's a mod that makes you, I think, have to go... There is at least one for hygiene. I'm not sure if there's one that makes you need to go to the... well, to the toilet, really. Every once in a while. Having that as a feature in the game, I do not think would be attractive to many outside of a core... of very dedicated individuals that like to enjoy the idea of LARPing true survival. And as I think about it, something extremely brutal even as the Long Dark video game, where you are thrust in the middle of somewhere, I think, in the tundra of Canada. You have to walk around, find resources, stay fed, keep yourself warm and such. That game doesn't make you go to the toilet. There's no point at which you have to make the resource consideration for temperature preservation by way of, you know, squatting behind a bush or such. And neither does this one. I'm not sure where I was going with all of this, but... Look at that, that's beautiful, isn't it? Now, this is an evolutionary tactic. The fact that they have unusual colouring means that their outline is very difficult for predators to track. Because if you see this thing moving in real life, thank you for that. The outline would break up, it would be blurry and erratic, and you would find it difficult to focus on where the animal's going. Yes. Although there is another thing, thylacines with their striped coats as well as zebras, it apparently makes it much more difficult for botflies, of all things, to latch onto them because they have more difficulty, I suppose, recognizing them. Yes. Like originally I was saying how sacred the game feels, that sort of bring you in the way it does. Oh goodness, I'm being messaged. That's the first time this has happened. Normally I have application audio capture on, but the game decided it wouldn't be cooperating with that today. So I think I did turn that down, but it didn't accomplish anything. Ambient interface. I am somewhat tempted to log back out and just turn off leveling for the moment. Because if it's going to do that frequently, it might be quite jarring. What is this? Toy. I've just seen a mouse creep across my living room floor. We've been having vermin problems for the last few years. One of my neighbours put out a bunch of bin bags all at once, and since then they've never left. It's an unfortunate thing. Fly agaric. I do wonder if there's mods. Every time I see these, I think about the implications of their existence, because they're very, very popular hallucinogenic in British Isles, and I imagine most of northern Eurasia as well. Maybe not as much these days as we have access to other things and various litigations and such, but those are responsible for a lot of cultural touchstones in the past few thousand years. People have consumed them variously in preparation, you know. They are toxic, of course, so it requires a certain level of preparation. But they do have their effects. Yes. Sorry, I noticed something. Am I running into a dead end? I think so. I could simply fly over it, but where would be the point in that? Magenta Chinese aster. Callistephus chinensis. Chinensis? I'm not sure how they would pronounce it. Oh, there's purple as well. Oh, look at that, there's a whole meadow of them. Beautiful. They even drifted on to the other conicals, apex, stalagmites, whatever you would call them. There, we've found a way over. Big fan of Step Up. I had thought about doing a stream of this, but I'm in the early stages of a project like this, so it's very touch and go as to whether let me be careful about my wording. Right, okay, I will return to you shortly, and I will disable the thing that is causing that. Right, and we're back. I have disabled Seraph leveling, as I do not wish to listen to egg timer chimes jump scaring me at random intervals. And we are continuing on our way. I feel as though I'm slightly faster now. Maybe the leveling system had a slight. I could be just completely imagining it though. I was just thinking how tired I was when I stopped. We reached exactly an hour, which is usually where I tend to cut off videos of any type. More, well, I suppose in general, but also most of my Let's Look At videos will run close to an hour, and then I'll stop there for the day. Already feeling how tempting it would be to just sort of lie down on my couch and stare at the ceiling for a while. So there's a topic that we might touch upon. Attention is a commodity these days, isn't it? And all of these social media websites are becoming increasingly hyper-aggressive in oh, they're eating berries. Beautiful little thing. I saw the flash of red. There's the baby. Wonderful. Let's see. They've become very good at holding a monopoly on attention, but not only that, the way that they work nowadays, they're getting increasingly good at showing just the right things to keep you engaged. And if you sort of fall into that trap where you may deliberately curate an experience to better serve your interests, but that juniper here. I don't think we've seen wolfberry yet. Oh, this is the first time I've seen white lupine. That's like a. It's like a blade of light. The relationship works both ways, where you might change the algorithm to better serve by giving you things that you're more likely to be interested in, and then the algorithm itself is designed and refined and refined and refined in such a way that it's to keep you on the website and going through that process and essentially rolling the slot wheel to see, oh, will I find something I like? Will I find something I like? And psychology research shows that you're more likely to keep gambling if you have a couple of close, like near misses, than you are if you get what you want, because there's less excitement. But all of that to say that my own experiences, I've been noticing recently my attention is being monopolized by these things, and I've been making a conscious effort to sort of draw back in one of the angles to better ration my resources. So I won't be too specific. I have a number of things, number of reasons that I have very limited energy reserves. And at least some of those are physical in nature, that can be tangibly addressed, and others are sort of more, are less tangible and sort of loosely environmental and whatnot. And to use an obvious example that one might, if you are anemic and you go without iron supplements for a very long time, that can be quite detrimental, because essentially you're starved of oxygen. Your body isn't able to make enough dopamine or other various transmitters of the like. I had one friend who at one point it had gotten so bad for them that they were sitting on their sofa, which they had been using as a desk chair for some time. And they were lying there with the window open, with the fresh air coming in, and they barely had enough energy to breathe. They were, the way they described it to me, they were essentially just lying there, and I won't replicate the sound. It's a very unpleasant thing, but you know, sort of struggling to breathe, struggling to get enough oxygen to facilitate even that process. And I guess through various dietary measures, they were able to realize and, you know, eventually got back on track from that. But it's a very real thing. Yeah. We're finally out of the forest. Is that the sun setting or rising? I can't tell at this angle. I think it's setting. We've been walking in the, yeah, I can see the rays raising slightly. So that's one physical example. Another would be new malnutrition. You know, the man cannot live on bread alone. And but a less sort of immediately sensible idea is the idea that paying attention to things, you really are paying attention. It's a physical resource, but it's not immediately visible or obvious to sort of recognize and contemplate. But I can tell you for certain, if you spend an hour or several in a day, or if you open your phone first thing in the morning and the first thing that you do is scroll Twitter for an hour, your brain does not have... It's still coming online. It doesn't have the chance to fabricate meaning for the day ahead. It's outsourcing it. And you're immediately spending a kind of resource of intellectual stamina to contemplate the things that you are looking at, even if you don't pay much particular attention to any of these things. If you struggling not to repeat myself too much. If you sit and you notice, and when you scroll through something, doom scrolling they call it, whether it's Twitter or YouTube Shorts or some other service like Instagram, there's a little... It takes a piece of you with it every time you go to engage with something, to consider it, to understand what it means. Even if that's just for a split second before you scroll away onto the next one. And then there's almost an attrition towards, if you find something that's interesting but long form, you might find that your attention wavers before the completion of the thing. And you might have to force yourself to go back to it. You know, I could go on to it, but the point of the thing is that the act of trying to understand or contemplate or recognize something has a physical tax, and if you do that too much, that can really weigh down on you and impact your ability to get anything else done. It flattens your emotional response because you're so used to having everything there in front of you. You can just go and see what someone else's opinion on it, who's who's more impulsive than you are, or however you would explain that process. Hello, my dear. Survival. Oh, you have a puppy. Should need to... Foxian creations. I would like your name. T-Ball. I will remember you, people. Typing. But yes, it has an energy resource cost, and that resource is used in the proliferation of emotions, in the internal contemplation of the experiences that you've had, in generating novel ideas and perspectives in response to the experiences that you've had. And if you think about it, what really happens in a day that is of unique interest? You might go a week. I'm sure there's always. I'm trying to struggle for an example here because so much of our recent civilization has been heavily industrialized, and the job market has never been more cloying. There's always something needing to be done in order to simply persist, shall I say. I think that's a clock tower over there. If you go back a few hundred years ago, what are you really needing to get done in a day? How many absolutely fascinating things are happening? A really easy example that I could use is to go and look at any of the media made before, at a glance, let's say 1980. If you watch Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever content you decide to, people make comparisons, but they're very different things other than the fact that they're in space. It seems like this church, and with a canyon below it. These pitfalls are deadly. How would you get out of them? The pacing is different. The original Doctor Who series, lingering on headshots, zooming in on facial expressions. There's a kind of cultural education happening, but also a very deliberate pacing that is designed to be able to transmit the information as intended over a longer time frame, such that it's likely to catch more people. Oh wow, I've wandered so far I've come across unique structures. I do have better ruins on, as well as a few... Well, I'm not sure if anything specific to that similarly is also there, but... I've seen that a couple of times, but not this. Dramatic moments, close-ups, musical amplitude, these minutes-long orchestral scores that are translating an emotional message. And you compare that... I hate to use such a crass example, but if you think of Teen Titans Go, a lot of people are upset with that for the pacing compared to even the older version, but even the original version of that show is quite fast-paced and erratic at times because it's designed for the attention span of millennials as teenagers who also had access to an unprecedented amount of information. Not quite as much as we do now. God help the Gen Alpha, but sit in a room with a show made in the 60s and something like Star Trek Lower Decks or Teen Titans Go or any of these new cartoons, or God forbid even Family Guy, and the attention span is completely different. Everything's happening at once, and things are being explained there's a rapid transmission of information, and not everything seems to be connected in any sort of coherent way. What is down here, I wonder? Is there anything down here? Oh, there is. There is a cavern right directly below. Run creative, and that's just immediately set something off. Yes, if you go into creative from spectator mode, the collision is not toggled. Toggling into creative, I think that this is just a random cavern. It doesn't seem like there's anything special here, despite its prescient location. It's good to ramble. Sometimes it's nice to take a minute to get to a point and exercise your brain, and that way it's like everywhere. One of the worst hard rocks. I don't even think you can net with it. Yes. It's very soft and tends to shatter in long streaks. Could possibly be used for a knife, but not very well. So I think about 10 minutes ago I started this topic. YouTube Shorts, algorithm gaming, attention keeping, and monopolizing common reads. Oh, okay. There's a kind of. I feel like you can maybe use that for fetch, or perhaps you can use it for. All of this over here looks like Thule. Is it? Common read? No, it's all common reads. They're absolutely massive. I have been making a personal effort in my own life to draw back from these, and when I noticed that I had 5 windows open in my browser, and each of them would have at least 6 tabs of YouTube, and then when I was bored with that I'd go to Twitter, and I was bored with that I'd go to Blue Sky. It's just no good. And even if I'm searching for something longer that I can sit and contemplate, I get itchy. But more than that, in the search, I'm not looking in the right places. I'm still... If you make food and you want to sit down and eat your food and watch a nice documentary or something, that's something you need to take a conscious sort of participation in these days. You can't really do that on... like cable news. You would go to a channel and it would be there, and you can still sort of do that today, but in falling into the unconscious trap of navigating the homepage and looking for your channel recommendations and seeing all sorts of nonsense that's designed to pick at different angles of your emotional receptivity, fascinate you into staying even longer. I'm running north this time. I was going east, but who's to say what might happen? It's 50k blocks, isn't it? Or is it 100k? I think it's 100k to get to the polars. The polar caps. Let's see what's up. They're not the northern one. Is that something? I thought I heard something. Bog pine means. Going through all the different biomes and such. Let's get the wonderful warm light going. Now if I... Oh, it becomes green. I see. So this is considered yellow rather than orange. Or I guess maybe the other light is so royal blue that it changes. I've been trying to cut back on my social media engagement, and it's difficult because it is, to a certain extent, going hunting for engagement is part of the parcel of doing something like this, where you're committing to a project and you're putting out videos and you're trying to essentially just attract attention and say, "Hi, I'm here, I'm doing things, and I'm in this space, and sort of putting a piece of myself out into the world." And isn't it such a dreary, exhausting thing that everything's being monopolized by AI even, and, you know, 5 minutes on the internet tells you that there's about 115 ways that the world's going to collapse by next month or possibly next year, or 5 minutes. It's very exhausting. It's so truly unfathomably exhausting on the spirit, and to a certain extent by design, but that goes into a whole political. Even touching on the subject is exhausting, because it's done to death and back again. But the point that I mean to say is that doing something like this, walking through space for nothing other than just simply admiring the scenery, interacting with all these tiny little stories, rambling to myself about anything and nothing, and also putting it out there, despite the fact that we are living in an unprecedented level of automated generation, it all rapidly becomes so meaningless. And I see the desire that people are reaching out into the internet, that are reaching out towards each other and seeking authenticity in the midst of all this. Some of it is, I would say, performative, but not inauthentically so. There is, of course, conscious actors that are saying, that are denigrating AI, and it goes in both directions. But the underlying conscious desire for human connection is one that is ever present, conversationally or otherwise. Such a thing as trying to find genuine content of Alan Watts, an old philosopher from, I think he was most active in the 40s, around about that time. He died relatively young, in his 60s, I believe, or 50s, from heart problems. But people still, they had cocaine and the cola back then, maybe as late as the 30s, and everyone was drinking whiskey to go to sleep at night, and daylight savings and all the rest of it, and the modern stressors and bad. There might have been 150 different reasons that he left so young, despite his practices. But Alan Watts is a philosopher who went to Asia and studied the ways of Tao and Tao and Yin Yang and Shinto and Buddhism and all this sorts of thing. And then he came back to America and started talking about it and trying to translate these concepts into a version that Western society could understand, and by extension contemplate and further their own understanding of the world at large, realizing that their own perspective is not the only one that need exist, and may not, in as far as anything can be, it may not be the most correct one, in so much that any perspective is inherently flawed and an attempt by humanity to sort of, it's all very head in the clouds type stuff, but also it's meaningful. it's meaningful. I could go on about it, but so he would go. He learned from all of these different philosophical paths in Asia, and brought these teachings back. He would share them and try to put them into a palatable lens for a Western audience, and just he taught essentially just how to think about thinking to some extent. Look at this fabulous thing. Now, some people may say that this is a rendering artifact, right? But I actually really like these. I've always been fascinated by floating islands in video games because it's such a thing, it's such a mundane thing that you wouldn't ever see in real life because the physics just doesn't support it. There's no anti-magnetic islands full of brimstone that are just sort of floating around in a geostationary orbit at low altitude, right? It's not a thing that you have, and yet it's such a non. Uh, it's mundane and yet so bafflingly unusual that it just demands attention. To my tastes, at least. I love seeing the rocks in Pandora in the Avatar films and all the vines stretching between them. Because I like to contemplate what a thing like that would function. Like, how would an ecosystem function in that environment? You could just float to things. Would there be animals that take advantage of the minerals? End up incorporating them into their feathers and such to sort of be less. Yeah, there's a lot to chew on there. But so Alan Watts and there's a very deliberate purpose with which he speaks in order to communicate these ideas. And so the second that you take something like that and you try to automatically generate it through something akin to the infinite library, it loses absolutely all of its meaning. Because you're no longer listening to a conscious effort to reinterpret a living understanding of the world. It's just high-powered autocorrect. And thus it's completely meaningless. It cannot have any sort of meaning even put onto it other than background noise, white static that ultimately has. Even if you listen to radio signals in deep space, you'll eventually come back to a source that, although it seems random in nature from our perspective, it is meaningful in some way, that it tells us something is out there in the universe and it's saying hello, whether it means to in some fashion. It brings our attention to it, and thus it broadens our perspective. And if I just want you to sort of contemplate what would be the purpose of someone putting out a radio telescope with all the fancy trimmings that they have, like in Hawaii or in sparse regions of like Nevada and Africa. What would be the purpose of listening with such intensity to randomly mixed noise that doesn't lead anywhere? You know? If you point your telescope out and it gives you a signal, but the signal is a flavor of something that's not actually there. It's just like something else that was there, that was recorded, that was remixed into so much other noise. I belabor the point. Hello, sweetie. Let's help you out here. It's there specifically you're trying to get? Just float in the middle? Yes, we'll leave them to it. There's a channel, by the way, the Alan Watts Foundation, or org, organization. It's shortened to org. They have a YouTube channel and they upload genuine content, and they're doing new uploads every day to sort of bait engagement and such, which is very good, I feel. Authenticity. The meaning of the thing is stripped away in its totality by being chopped into salad and remixed and spat out without any sort of conscious oversight or higher purpose in mind with what it's communicating. And people very naturally seek meaning in their experiences to varying degrees, because at the outset we're trying to, if you very much simplify it, we're curious. Our instincts tell us to contemplate our surroundings, that we might anticipate threats and such. But we've reached such a level of complexity that play sort of becomes its own purpose these days. And amidst all of this noise that is being generated in tandem and desperately trying to soak up all of the attention that we have, and I guess to one extent or another sabotage any meaningful attempt at genuine human discourse, people are still hungry for nutrition. You can't live off biscuits and bread. You want something with flavor in it. Fruits, nuts, sugar, vegetables, meat. A candy made with gelatin. A bag of Haribo is a very poor substitute for a steak. A rhubarb and custard, delicious and delightful as though it might be, is a very poor nutritional substitute for a stalk of rhubarb in a I guess you would call it a pie or something, in a bowl of custard. You know, there's a lot going on there. Maybe not the healthiest option, but there is real nutritional value to there compared to having a slice of hard candy that tastes similar, that's also been boiled to 200 degrees Celsius. Just pure sugar. Yes. And finally, all of that to say that with that, the advent of this era of post-information, people are seeking connection. I seek connection. I like to hear people's opinions and experiences, what they think about the world, and how they navigate it. Just random stories that they've heard from their childhood, because it's meaningful, it's a dialogue, it's a conversation. I might never be able to participate in that conversation, but the fact that someone else is putting it out, that I'm able to hear a story from someone I've never even met, and have all of these experiences relayed to me, and able to consider them and reflect them against my own experiences, and sort of think, well, what does that mean to me? What would I have done in that situation? How do I feel about the events that transpired, and how things shaped out for the people in that situation and such. And with all that, for many years, For many years, I have contemplated and variously made attempts at doing projects like these. I think there was a video even as far back as I think there was a couple of videos I made when I was 13 that no one needs to know any details about. But there's been various attempts at Let's Plays. I think when I was 15 I made a trailer for an Okami Let's Play in Windows Movie Maker, of all things, saying that it would be up by September of that next year. But that never really came to anywhere because I didn't really know what to do when I sat down in the game. Like what to do, what to talk about. Some of that is down to having a troubled past and not sure of what I can share. Some of it's down to sort of like, I think there's an element of attention seeking, there's an element of like reticence to be seen, to be vulnerable, to be exposed. There was a Minecraft series I did at some point, and I caught myself devolving as I was editing one video. I ranted during the video, during the recording, and in post I was adding on to it, and I was just venting relentlessly in circles about everything and nothing, about things that were going on in my life, and frustrations with my family and my living situation, and it didn't really seem like it was going anywhere or getting me anywhere. So I would delete it, and then I just sort of kept doing the same thing, because when you have a feeling that you live a very droll life and that there's not much worth experiencing, how do you get over that? I suppose you make do and you make observations and you try and come about things in a way that is entertaining, at least to you and at least in passing to those that you interact with on a regular basis. And now I find myself here. There's always been a terrible fear that I've had about being known, about being notorious, and having... Oh goodness me, it's cold. How cold is it here? 5 degrees. I instantly started to freeze. There, okay, the menu is open. I would say nowadays, after, well, where do I start with this? I'm in my 30s, right? Statistically speaking, if I look at my family tree, I'm already in the mid-game. I'm halfway through. We're at half-time. I've lived a portion of my life unmolested by the terrifying, malicious possibility of unchecked impulse. I'm trying to think of a very complicated way to describe virality in a social media sense. If you do something that people notice and a lot of people just decide to take upon themselves denigrating you for it, it can very quickly ruin your life. And I've just never been comfortable with being seen in general, let alone on a scale that could lead to such visceral hatred, because I think an experience like that would simply confirm a lot of fears that I've held in my youth based on my experiences, which again I'm being a little bit cagey about, because it's not really, you know, that's not what I'm here to talk about. It's more just sort of, I'm in a different space, as well as... Oh, there's nothing down here. You know. Moving. I'm middle-aged now. Had a lot of experiences. lived a life that many have not gotten to. I've lived it privately. I've lived it mostly on my own terms and been fortunate enough to be in a position where my physical constraints are alleviated by the how do I put this? I live comfortably. Not grossly so, but comfortably. I don't have to worry about starving. I don't have to worry about the heating and such. I am fortunate enough, not in any real position of fiscal juggernaut. That's a strange word to use. I'm not in a position of power, but neither am I in a position of abject poverty, to put it to rest. And through that, I've been able to live life somewhat on my own terms, gently satisfy my curiosities from time to time. But beyond that, shoot, I feel as though I had something there for a moment. It's warmer here slightly because we're in the forest now. Being younger, you have a fear of something ruining the course of your life because there's a lot of anxiety, performance anxiety as well, of just like, okay, it's on your shoulders, where are you going to take it? And especially if the only advice you're getting is that, well, you need to get a realistic job, and you need to batten down the hatches, and you need to figure things up, pull your bootstraps up, and all the rest of it, and told that artistic expression is not a realistic income goal. You know, despite the safety net that I've had all of this time, there has been this pressure to perform, and I've variously attempted to conform to these expectations and had it destroy me in the process. Besides that, I've had my body is subject to entropy. And I've seen the effects of that. My friend that I described earlier, you know, they didn't realize that however much they were having. They'd received a diagnosis of anemia in their earlier years, but had forgotten about it. And in their later years, in an attempt to allay the water quality of their faucets or whatever, they were drinking a lot of tea and coffee constantly and just basically zero water. And that ended up going the way that it did. You know, they ended up suffocating while breathing. What a scary thought. But I'm having similar things as that on my own terms. I think, not to get circular with it, the thing that I'm trying to get at is that I've had a satisfying amount of experiences, and the nature of my curiosity and the way that I engage with everything these days is changing. I'm less freely giving of my attention to things that I feel are not worthy of my time. And this attempt at extricating myself from social media being one of those things, in trying to fall more in line with this changing, this transitioning into my new self. I am less universally curious, although I remain intelligently so. I don't mind saying that. Intellectually engaged, but not overly attached to everything that comes my way. I am in a position of a crossroads. I am between versions of myself. I have motivations that previously were pulling me in one direction are no longer relevant. And so, where this terror that my life would be defined by a specific mistake, or any and every single one that could be possibly made, and everything must be done absolutely perfectly. What the heck is this? It's just a single bit of soil. A random wall in the middle of nowhere that looks like a pair of claws. I no longer have this anxiety of my life being ruined, I suppose is where I'm getting at. And, well, now I'm here making these videos and talking to myself in front of a camera for odd hours and hoping maybe someone will find it interesting enough to sit through it and respond to it, engage with it. I'm reaching out. Previously, I would never have fully committed to it, but now I am. Have I just started walking the other way? I think I walked all the way over here and then back down again. My goodness. I saw this from a distance and I was just fascinated by it. Random particle effect. Is that another one? Or am I just... Yeah, I turned myself around. Is that a farming vessel? Here he is there. So... I see this desire for connection. I feel it daily. Oh god, do I feel it. And I see displayed the spoken and unspoken natural magnetism towards authentic demonstration. And I see all of these beautiful creations that are remixes of what has been made by human hands trying to express an art form or a feeling or a level of skill. And if you can replicate something on the level of the Mona Lisa, these incredibly photorealistic watercolor paintings that someone has spent hundreds of hours practicing for and may have some preternatural capability for, it's a very odd thing to see such a massive tree just sort of floating on an idea. That we can replicate such perfections of art at ease, and thus, by that, have them rendered meaningless, as they no longer carry... There's nothing behind them, you know? And the argument goes in 100 different directions, and people will, you know, have whatever version that they will in there, but the feeling is still there. The sensation, this draw towards authenticity. Let's say hello to the trader before we go across the lake. It's polite to say hello when you pass by someone's house now. As long as they're accepting visitors. I find myself no longer anxious about fucking up. Because... well, it doesn't matter at this point. But... more than that, it's Noah, the clothing merchant. What fabulous things are you selling? A leather belt and a tool belt. I wonder if we'll ever get those as a handy thing that you can maybe put on a pouch or somewhere you can access your tool belt. The fact I might be bad at this is no longer a demotivator for engaging with it. In fact, it almost feels like a quality, the flaw in it. I am bringing my own imperfect version of events and lived experiences true to only myself and no others and that seems to be attractive today. Sure, we could listen to uh, Microsoft Sam, a very souped up version of himself, talk about anything and everything, but people sharing experiences, lived experiences, and all the rest of it. Myself as well. I'm trying not to go in circles. So, but just as we are circumnavigating the breadth of this lake rather than going straight across it, it's about the journey rather than the destination. I'm just sort of expressing feelings and exploring them and realizing them as I'm in the process of explaining them, how to better shape them, how to give them form in the first place. So here I am, exposed and vulnerable, and maybe not too difficult to have my anonymity wrenched away from me, but I'm at this position where it's no longer so concerning. And even though it's still scary, the terror of being unknown, I think at this point, now outweighs the counter pressures. I wish to be seen against everything else. I wish to be known. I wish to share my experiences, that someone else might find something that tickles them or suits their interests. Even if that might not come back to me in any meaningful way, it will still be something I have said. It will be a mark that I have left on a cave painting 1,000 years from now. Or maybe just a couple of weeks or years, you know, any particular direction and length. What is all this? I think I've seen this build. Someone's made this and added it. This is definitely a Better Runes mod, I feel. It's sunk into the lake. This has made me think. I've had the idea before. I would like the idea of a coat rack emulating the effects of, oh, look at this. Where are you trying to climb onto? Here? Oh, it's trying to climb onto a big log, perhaps. That's beautiful, isn't it? You have a sunset and a shadowy figure backed by rolling mountains. I love abstract art. It's like painting a dream. Even if ultimately this project of mine may not monetarily assist me or meaningfully change my living situation, it's meaningful to me because I'm making it meaningful and I'm doing something with my time other than just spending it doing nothing except absorbing what comes my way. These are... Did we see... I think I saw... Perhaps a raccoon took it and then thereafter despawned, going out of range. Who knows? Maybe they got caught by a fox. Even if nothing comes of it, it will still have been done. And that itself brings its own layer of meaning, at least to me, I suppose. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Just sort of riding the equator in the temperate zone here. More fireweed. This is an admission to myself, uh, as well as to the world, I suppose, that I am ready to participate in whatever small way that I can, if only to say that I did, rather than living the rest of my life in the spectre of the terror of being known. I would prefer to have done something, and maybe through that even have my fears confirmed, because at present I already live as though it's true. You know? I already live as though this is a terrible, horrible thing that will only bring famine and apocalypse upon my person and all the rest of it. But if I do it, and that does come true, is that any worse than not doing it and living as though it will come true invariably, and looking back on my life and saying that I haven't really left much of anything at all? It is, and we tell ourselves this, it is enough andesite to survive. But it's also not. It's okay to be struggling. It's undesirable to have no room whatsoever to be defined beyond that struggle, however. You must make some space, at the very least, for your own... I don't think growth is necessarily the right word here, but to stretch, to know who you are beyond the confines of the everyday, to andesite sand and chert sand. Look, it's a very pretty contrast, isn't it? It's like a Pokeball from a certain angle. I would love to make a house here and maybe make some blocks out of those. Have some crisscross patterns. Look at all the little families. The absolutely giant larch over there. Oh, that's one of the new ones. That I haven't seen anything done like that before. That's mildly more typical, but usually these are just straight up blocks that look like oaks. I absolutely adore this. You would have to go through 5 stone axes to get that fucking thing done. I think it's worth trying things that are scary, if only to say that you have. Maybe not skydiving. I agree with one of my friends on that. I would like to try skydiving at some point. I would also be okay if I didn't, though. I would also like to become an astronaut, but I don't think I would meet the fitness requirements. I barely meet the conscription requirements, my goodness. Not to say I haven't thought about the army on occasion, but it's, yeah, there's so many factors there as well. The most ridiculous thing you might not be surprised or to know. One of the largest reasons I've never actually signed up for the army is they tell you what to do with your hair, which has just seemed silly to me forever. I can understand in a practical setting, you know, if you're going places, you want a certain level of decorum, but it's rooted in very, very old, dogmatic sort of understanding there. All the lads have to get their heads shaved off, all the women have to have their hair tied up to, I think it can't be longer than their shoulders. In fact, it shouldn't touch the shoulders most of the time. Maybe not that extreme, but you can. There's this and that. It's a very small thing, but it's silly in both directions, really. Anyway, what is this? Oh goodness me, kudzu, and the rabbits are eating it. I would be hesitant to believe that. Oh, there's a tiny baby boar. Did you spawn in without your mama? Or did your mama despawn? Oh, goodness, no. That's terrible. Maybe she's going away foraging for you. I think you were supposed to stay under the kudzu, but maybe it's better that you didn't. What is this thing? The lancewood, it looks so strange. It's the only thing I've seen that's like that. Some beautiful trees here. Yeah, that kind of concludes to some extent or another. I kind of wandered around. I got what I was feeling at my system, and now I'm just kind of here for the heck of it. If anything to take away from this, I would say, if you feel that there is a project that you want to get done and you have the energy to spare towards it without, you know, overly stressing yourself beyond the capacity to live and get your day-to-day done, I would say go for it, for what it's worth. I'm doing this. I mean, you know, it's very selfless of me to do this, isn't it? If we spin it by another way. I could be sitting on the couch scrolling Twitter for the next 3 hours, or for the past 3 hours, as it were. And instead I've decided to take it upon myself to wander around in a video game without any semblance of danger. Just sort of going, ooh, look at this, and isn't this beautiful? There's little fairies, by the way. And, oh, look. Such a gorgeous view. Oh, oh, all the rest of it. It's something to do, though, isn't it? A game that can so consistently make me want to pause and just save photographs of it to say that I was somewhere and appreciate the experience at the same time. It's magnificent. Can I get one with the goat? Excuse me, friend. Are you feeling camera shy? Is this the nighttime? Yes, we've been wandering around. So is it red sky at night, shepherd's delight? Red sky in the morning, shepherd's warning. Ooh. Oh look, there's their mate. So that's the male. That's the. Oh. Well, they might still be mates. Who's to say? Part of the same herd. Heimlock. Goodness me. Oh, that's the glow of my lantern coming in. Good practice to keep your instincts trained, even if you're invulnerable. The carnation? Ooh, we got pink carnations. We got it's not crimson. It's like a very, very deep rouge. I think, yeah, very, 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 very deep hot pink. Can we get some of the flowers in the way? Oh, perfect. We even got the goat in view. Coming across some random caverns over here. If I was talking about anything 5 minutes ago, I've completely forgotten about it. That's fine though. And we've come across our first river. Could have seen it if we went north fast. No. Most of these bodies I've sort of just walked around. I think I shall do that again. I followed a tributary for, well, I mean, the time was going in fast forward, and I was watching the sun come up and down and up and down. In my private game. This is a mod, by the way. Rivers aren't. I'm not playing on 1.22 yet. They didn't quite figure out how to get it running natively, I think. I'm not sure if there's about to be a little bit of collaboration between the mods and the developers, right? The modders. But this is not yet part of the base game. I think there's also probably a gentle bit of pressure in the back of the minds of Taverty and what was it? Sarity and Tyron to sort of maintain a level, a sense of purity. This is their project, and it can be very tempting to take all of the creative input, and I'm sure they do to some extent. But there's also too many cooks in the kitchen, is I think something, because you can lose sight of your original goal. This game has been in development for the last 10 years. I think Shanton was playing back in 2016, perhaps, or maybe at least as far as 2018. That's a wild thing to think about. Even VR chat was just coming out around that time, and it shows the attention to detail really shows, and everything that comes in across the game. And it doesn't even at first glance, you might think, oh, well, there's not that much going on. It's got like a... But you have to look a little bit closer, because if you look at all the fine details, like someone had to sit for several hours and get the details of the grass moving just right, and editing the interactions with the wind and the particle density. Someone had to sit and fiddle with the biome generational logic to have it go in a certain way that at least made sense. These trees appear in this area, and the temperature is like this in that area, and so on. And although I've added like a very liminal set of mods. Giant button daisy, mostly just extra flowers and plants, and also trees and rivers. Hello, sweet thing. Can I pet you? I don't think I can. Oh, there is sleep. Oh, it's a little baby. Look at the little baby. My goodness. Look at the tiny thing. It's having a little rest. You're a rooster, so where's Mama? She must be sleeping there. There she is. She's sleeping under the hedge. That's a rooster as well. Where is the mama? Maybe one of them is, it is a thing. Hens can sometimes change sex. Or at least maybe like a hormonal change. I'm not sure if they can, fulfill the function, but they do, at least socially. They start developing spurs, the wattle, and all the rest of it. I think they go the full gambit, much like certain species of frogs, little known, mentioned in I don't know why I was going to call Jurassic Park Treasure Planet, but that large thing. Interesting designs. Rain's back. Let it breathe for a bit. In speaking about authenticity, you might be surprised to learn that the way that I speak is quite deliberate. And I'll get into that a bit. So, already I speak with a deliberate cadence. I say a few words and then pause. I let things marinate for a moment and move on to the next part. But I also put on a little bit of an affect. I speak with a very particular timbre and dialect and accent. People with a trained ear might be able to pick up on very subtle inflections and such, but largely I've found that that's not necessarily the case, and it can be assumed that you're just the way that you talk is the way that you sound. I could jump, but let's just be a little bit polite. There's a crossing right there. Let's use it. Hit it up with the lights that are on either side. Some of the lights in the UK they have like those poles at the top that alternate flashing. My real accent, my real voice is a little bit lower and a little bit thicker. I grew up and still live in Scotland. Oh, look at them, they're having tea. Nothing quite like eating cranberries in the rain, is there? Oh, they're very well fed. Do they eat them after a while? Who's to say? It's adorable though, I just want to take a little photo there. It puts a wee bit of a strain on my voice, and I feel as though it forces me to think a little bit more about what I'm saying when I'm using that very deliberate way of talking that I do. And when I slip out of it, it's not so much slipping, I have to put a little bit of a conscious effort in staying like this, rather than the other way. Oh goodness me, the rain is loud, isn't it? Is this another tributary? I think it is. I don't think I can get around this one. Ah yes. I've been impatient. That's the thing we saw at the other side of the river all this time. I am used to speaking in such a way that is designed to make people feel at ease, to be understood, to minimize communicative friction, and I suppose by another way, remove all sort of unique identification to myself. I try generally to slip into whatever the situation requires. And if I meet someone with what is to be an unusual accent rather than standard fare, I will naturally attempt to try and imitate it. Not in any mocking sense, but in a form of accommodative speaking, because there's people talking the way that they do, they're used to listening with an ear for a certain way of speaking, and some people, the way that your brain works listening is different than the way your brain works while you're talking, that's for sure. But there still is an ear for the particular way that some syllables get put down. I always think of the sort of the Nigerian accent when they talk a certain way. They, the way that the statement that they make and then they go down. And I won't do any more than that because I'm not too good at it. But it's the matter of fact statement. The way that they talk regularly is obviously different than, say, like a standard English or Scottish or Swedish accent. You learn to pick up on the subtle differences, and if you listen to them for long enough, you can sort of emulate them to some effect, and maybe that even makes it easier to learn their language. Another concept, the floating pill here. And yeah, I just felt a wave of fatigue hit me as I completed my journey there. All the way from over there, we saw this little collection of oh no, it's not even this one, it's way over there. This is just a random happenstance. That's to say that we can't do a little bit of exploring, however. What is all the way up here? A collection of peat. Indeed. Let us manifest our way straight up. It is 1 degree outside and dropping rapidly. Glacier ice. Yes. Along with cave that I may be so brave as to embark into, with nothing inside of it except the chance for Ripley's to spawn. Oh, there's something down here. Hello? Despondent vermin. Let's go out there the traditional way. I don't want to fly to the other place. I want to actually make the journey there because I feel like that's more, we're doing an experience here. Let me see now. Can I easily do something? I could, but that would involve destroying the landscape. A ruined shovel, I see. Well, we've been seeing a lot of chert lately, so it does make sense to do something like this. And let's just see. I've been told, had it made aware to me, high fertility soil. How demure, and then there's immediately low fertility soil right next to it. I think it is rumored that in these sorts of spaces there is likely to be meteoric iron, and sadly to say, I don't think that that's the case here. Maybe I've... Nope. Put it back. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh yes. There we go. Dealt with all that. God knows what I was thinking about before I am. It was just going on my way to a place with a thing. LARPing it, having a meaningful interaction. Isn't that what we're all doing? Oh, I've just missed it. I've just missed the opportunity. Hello, little one. Where's your mama? There seems a spate of orphans on the loose lately. What is this thing? A Chinese bellflower. It's very beautiful, isn't it? I say that a lot. I'm trying to make observations while I'm inviting you in to sort of, you know, make of it what you will, whether or not you will. Aburi desu ne. Aburi. That's probably not the right word. What is this? Common read. I kind of wish... If I... Yeah, I have many ideas for mods. If I were to make a mod, I think one of the things that I would like to do is a UI form that allows you to sort of put everything away except for the names that appear at the top. Or perhaps maybe like a button that you could press to bring it back without bringing back the hotbar. You just glance at the name for a second. Identify it in your almanac. Am I still... Oh, there's a trader here. I didn't even contemplate. What is that, though? Oh. Something even more interesting. It seems to be a ruin of some kind. Like a grand church, perhaps. Ah, Demir, it has a... Interesting. One of the stony oil have been replaced with a pot with spikes on it. A ruined door. Andesite ashlar blocks. Very fabulous. Yeah, and then we come over here and then we find a translocator. Is there anything on top? Oh, a bunch of gears. I wouldn't have thought to look. What is... I don't know, let's go back up, let's go back up. There we go. Look at that. There's such sights as these. It truly is a beautiful game, and I've never even... I haven't used any graphical mods for this. I know I keep harping on about it, but really the game is so inviting. It welcomes you in, it brings you into the space. It gives you all these things to contemplate and behold. And I just love it. I really do. Sort of random change of topic. I'm contemplating. It's a curious thing. Sometimes YouTube will send videos my way, and especially if you click on one type of video, it will send you 50 more of the same. But every now and again, you get these videos that are... people are essentially giving out their last thoughts, their last within their last days on Earth, and whether they have like terminal conditions or they leave us for other reasons. I've had the thought on occasion, what is it like to go through that sort of the experience. Sometimes I've contemplated doing it myself. But from an empathetic point of view and also just curiosity, sort of, if you know that your time here is limited in a very real and immediate sense, rather than just sort of, the inevitability of entropy, so vlogging about that, about your journey, and then also leaving messages and sometimes people randomly that have never even met you years later. What's your name, my friend? Mustafa, clothing merchant. Some very fabulous chic here. Traveler's earthrobe. And a minstrel coat. I quite like the malefactor bit, personally. Let me do that, there we go. It just seems nice, drab, and humble. Yeah, like, so there was a spate of videos, and I indulged my curiosity. There was one man who was sat on a log, just videoing himself out in the middle of nature. There was a woman who had been dealing with a kind of, you know, I don't want to say the word because I don't want the algorithm to push me in a certain direction. How shall I say? A generation of misplaced genetic replication. Does that sort of, you get it? It's also a zodiac sign. Yes. What is that? Yeah, what do you have over here? Arr, 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 arr. Telling me not to touch it. This is free game though, he's just sort of left stuff across the place. Yeah, there was a woman who was vlogging in the middle of her house, and it was their last day with us, and they because assisted sort of passing on techniques and such. Some people would prefer to accelerate, if only for the sake of not having to go through an extraneous amount of suffering, knowing that inevitably it's going to be pointless. And all the while, what is that? A surface shiver? But you look quite afflicted. Have they added more? It's like bone rust. That one's wearing a loincloth. That one's wearing underpants. Did you just walk on a spike? Okay, you're not taking damage. It's my lantern that's doing that. I want to see if there's something important down here. So she's talking about stuff, and then her cat's in the background. It's walking up and down the stairs, and she's talking about, oh yeah, my nieces and nephews are coming over to spend the last day with me before what happens. And then they made like a little bonus video afterwards. It was quite sweet. It's a fascinating thing, I find. Sort of being made to face your own mortality to that extent. Oh, look, something else fabulous to see. Let me see here. Yes, we're on schedule. Oh. I don't want to be sprinting everywhere. That is andesite gravel, yeah. You could hear it. Just randomly choosing this area to simulate the sound from. More peat. Oh, for Pete's sake. I'm getting lost again. Sidetracked. Red Lupin, my favorite. I have seen a lot of people, most people will tend to play with the music turned down to about 5% because it gets started. It's very beautiful, but it gets started and then it just gets, oh my goodness, it's the life of the party, and the party is loud. They just sort of get louder and louder and louder. What are those? Onions. Hanging. I think at some point in the distant past I was talking about my accent. Various conversations with the people that I know. I sort of interact with about it. Another reason that I use a very neutral accent is that I was having a lot of interactions where I would meet someone from America or wherever else, and they would clock onto the fact that I was Scottish and then immediately feel the requirement to make sort of comments about it. And I started making a thing for a while of going like, freedom, haggis, neeps and tatties, haggis, you know, just sort of... It can be tedious to be forced into the same interaction consistently with people. But as I've gotten just a little bit older, there's a desire for authenticity that's not being met in my own life. Putting forward this version of myself that's so strenuously curated. My dysphasia is also a little bit amplified. It goes in how shall I say it? I stammer more when I talk like this. Whereas if I'm talking like this, there's less unsurety of what I'm going to say, because my body is as much as I am putting out what I'm saying, and I don't have to think about it as hard. Part of that is how deliberate this way of speaking is, because it is a conscious thing that I'm doing to some extent. It's also automatic, but it's curated, it's deliberate, it's crafted, and thus where I will start a sentence and repeat the first syllable rapidly until I figure out what the syntax and the grammar is going to be. Whereas I'm talking like this and I'm relying on instinct, and I'm not putting quite as much effort into how I'm going to say what I'm going to say right afterward. You know. Everything and nothing, everything and nothing. I think if I get hit with another wave of fatigue, I might sit on this to rest and go about the rest of my week. But this is the only way up. There we go. Shall we do it here? I think so. Basically, the only reason I'm playing in creative is that I don't have to deal with the monsters, but I can still see them and watch them and sort of point of interest. Very cold up here. You can see everything though. I wouldn't mind living in a little cave up here, right? It'd be quite frigid though. Even the grass is struggling at this temperature. It's all brown up here. The part where it comes to desert. Oh my goodness. What now? What now, eh? It's not so bad, is it? Now, this track that's playing I love very much because it sounds like Breezy from Final Fantasy for a little bit at the beginning. In Final Fantasy VIII, there's a tune that plays when you're on the coastal town at the harbour, just sort of mucking about. It's very beautiful. one of the only Final Fantasy games I played growing up. The other was Final Fantasy X, but I never got more than, I think, like 20 minutes into that. I got, you get off the first island and then things change and it's kind of confusing. Also, there's Catman suddenly. But Final Fantasy VIII, I had the discs, because there's 4 of them. My god, they really went all out with it and all the cutscenes and stuff. I could never get the other discs to work because PlayStation CDs were incredibly fragile in those days, especially the black ones. I think those were made out of plastic or vinyl or something. They would scratch incredibly easily. So yeah, I beat the first disc and I got a little ways into the second one, and I think you end up meeting a woman with or a young woman around about your own age. The characters in the game are like in their between 17 and like 23, I think. In fact, Quistis, your instructor, who looks slightly older than yourself, they kind of set her up as someone who's like 36, but she's 20. She's 20. She's only 2 years older than yourself, and she's your instructor, and she's giving you this and that, and that's fascinating to me. Yeah, you meet Rona, and she's got her little dog, and beautiful thing. I wish I could pet them. I have a thing that lets you pet everything, but it doesn't always work. Maybe you have to be on nice terms with them. Ah, Shiro. Shiro, Kami. I'm running ahead of myself. I always love the fact the Final Fantasy VIII introduces you to a trading card game, and then immediately to a card shark who completely kicks your ass and steals all of your cards if you keep trying to play them. But you can also there's a small chance that you can create cards in the wild. You can turn creatures into cards. It's the whole thing. Maybe it was a rare drop. Oh no, the wildlife rod again. Goodness me, I've been at this for 2.5 hours now. I almost feel like I want to randomly come across a pre-generated, fully kitted out house and just sort of log out in there. There was the one that we found at the pond, but that was flooded. I would like to sit here and harvest a bunch of things and maybe like a small little hut with a thatch roof. That'd be a nice way to close the video, wouldn't it? I could spend the next 20 minutes doing that. Yes. We are now in survival mode, but let me just... You and you and you... I probably picked you up somewhere along the way, so I'll just leave that to be. You can sit there. Wouldn't that high fertility soil come in handy about now? Is that shale? Oh, goodness. We've immediately found flint. Oh, and it's duplicated. You got two of them at a point. I feel like having the lines that thick actually makes them more difficult to see. Yes, yes. We're nowhere near any cattails, but theoretically speaking, we shouldn't need them. Let's just get all this. Oh, it popped out a stick for me. Oh, that's a spear. Well, not what I wanted, but I'm not complaining. I might have to put some unemployed to right. There's such a mix of trees here. And there's a storage vessel made of copper. Oh, what a wonderful place to start a life. Spotted sunflower seeds. Ooh. If we were in Terraria, I'd be very happy right now. That's unfortunate, neither of them dropped seeds. Can I... Oh well, what's the difference really? 1.2, 1.5, it split the difference? Flint, yes. I should free up a little bit of inventory space. Okay, there is a coastline right nearby, so we should have fun with that. Oh, that's not what I thought it was. We finally got a seed! Carry it with me and treasure it always. I do love the fact that you can make amulets out of seeds. We got another seed from the bush. I'm just going around here with an axe machete, tearing down the countryside. Right, and then there was... we need a knife. I may very well turn aggressiveness off. If we run into heebie-jeebies. Green alder leaves. Those always drop leaves, branches, sorry. And then there's shale, there's no flint. It's a very poor area to start a business in, I feel. Muddy gravel, that looks like fresh water, so that must, but this looks like it could be salt water. No, it's an enclosed sea, so it shouldn't necessarily be salty. What is that? Oh, we've had a pine log spawn with horsetail on it instead of leaves. How demure. I love using that word, it's my favourite one today. Oh, goodness me. Okay, let's... I mean, it's so bushy. What I'm talking about. I'm always and ha and will I, won't I, shall I, shouldn't I, about impeding the natural landscape. Some of these berries, though. Shale stones. Where's the flint? Going for all this effort. Oh, the worms. I'm not going to worry about those yet. Cranberries galore. Truly a horrible place for workable stones. I think you were there, yeah. Leave it exactly where you found it, everything's sacred. That'd be a nice place to start a house, wouldn't it? Think? What is that? What is it? Bog bean. I don't think it's the edible kind. Onions, buns, and beans. Lead ore. Ooh. How far are we in now? We got 15 minutes left. We're good to go. Shale stones as far as the eye can see. I shall have to make a decision. We are walking out of the forest, which is where I need to be in order to get the things that I need. At the moment, quite plainly, grass. Was that you? Oh, it's not gonna take well, is it? Oh, it did. I was expecting that to pop the axe. I wasn't sure, but I thought the leaves contributed to the durability loss. I suppose not. At least in this case. One of these is a knife. I have two knives. Why do I have two knives? The first one I made I thought was a spear. Well, don't worry, I figured it out now, my loves. That's the wrong axe. I see mods that show you the durability left on these as you're breaking blocks. Come on now, we've only got 3 more hours of sunlight. Things to be doing. Shenanigans to be afoot-ing. Did that really not take up? Anyway. Could I get up here? Struggling. Oh, goodness me. I could make this very easy on myself by just going the other way, couldn't I? There, I got there in the end. Okay, what are we going to do with this? Well, first things first, do I need to put it on a solid wall to lean it? Oh, there you go. Let's maybe not leave that out in the middle of nowhere. Nothing carried on back. That's right, isn't it? Got carry on mod installed. Is there anything over there I need? Yes. It's cattails. I need to make haste. 11 degrees, that's fine, right? It's a balmy 76 or so. 64? Somewhere in that range. It's raining. Ooh, baby, it's raining. That's poplar tree, I think. I absolutely adore the formations of these things. So much more interesting than a couple of hawks and then 5 leaves stacked on top. Oh, there's a fish. That's something I didn't really consider if there was predators in this pond, but I don't think it could take a stable population. It could maybe take a human or a Sarah. Oh goodness, it's storming. What am I going to do with this? I will thoroughly remember to return to this wherever it belongs. Is there more over here? There must be. There's also a bunch over there though. My diatribe is largely spent at this point, hence why I'm trying to do something. Yeah. The Wanderers. Oh, that looks scary. My goodness. There's our first basket. You tell I'm good at multitasking. Where are we gonna find our clay? I don't have a hat. Oh, goodness me. Let's fix that. There we go. Save me from the rain. Oh, that was a lightning strike I thought I saw. I enjoy the thunderstorms where I was imbibing with a sense of urgency. Hearing things at a strange angle, maybe in the recording of the sound. Like hearing things happen around the microphone. Very tense. That sounds like barking. What is that? That's floating in the air. It looks like a moon. This looks like a house. Or maybe it could be common. Very stressed in this place. Beautiful carnations. Ah! Shelter. Is that just a floating... It's andesite. I thought it was glacier ice. Glacier. the side here. Oh, sorry, the Grizzlies have already moved in. Daisies! What is that? And there's a rift nearby. You don't look like a surface shiver. Or rocks. Part of the set dressing, I imagine. Yeah, this is a place that's quite hostile to myself. Goodness me, oh my. Struggling to load the chunks in. Is that right? I have a feeling that this place would be temporarily unstable if I was to come back here in survival. Back into the forest with us. Oh goodness! It seems like we may not have to make a hut after all. Be a fenced shelter for the night. From the storm, from the rain, from the terrors. Bye. Hello, friend! Oh, it's heaving down out there. What are you doing about a door? What's your name, my friend? Shem, the travel goods supplier. What have you got? Oh goodness. Yeah, spears and a sewing kit. As well as pets. Oh, hunting dog! Blessed be. You're even selling a hay bed. Do you mind if I crash on your bed for just a while? You do, you've got a place to sit. Let's see. Well, my friends, I'm going to wait out. Indeed. I'm going to wait out the rest of this storm with my friend Shem here. And I will see you all later. I hope that you've enjoyed my long ramble, one of the two, some of the four. And I hope you have a very blessed day. Be well and take care.